So you want to create your own fantasy map with varying landscapes, mountain ranges, and forests, but you don't know where to start. Today I'm going to be showing you how to do exactly that. Hello everyone, it is Shipwreck Samantha here, and today we are going to be creating a fantasy world map just like this one. I have broken down this process into 3 steps, and so step 1 is to play with shapes. The first thing you want to do when creating your fantasy map is you want to understand what the actual land is going to look like, specifically the shapes themselves. What is the silhouette of the land going to look like? This can also be affected by what you're planning on using this world for. Is it going to be more centered around the ocean? Are you going to be more focused on the land? What is the focus and the purpose of this world? Say you wanted a world that was very structured, very well-formed and fortified. You might want to play around with more boxy shapes, adding a lot of islands or a little bit of islands, surrounding the entire thing with islands so it's difficult to get to the center. Or you want this world to be dangerous or difficult to get into. You can work with more sharp shapes, having fine points and areas that are difficult to reach. Think about what kind of shapes will best represent the feel you want to have with your fantasy world. Do you want it to be more welcoming? Give it more smooth and flowy shapes and things that are a little more abstract. Add as many islands as you want, or don't have any islands at all. The important thing is making sure the silhouette of your island or continent best represents the entire feel you want to have for your fantasy world. So once you have your general shape down, you can create an official outline silhouette of what you want your land to look like. Creating rough edges, smooth areas, just kind of giving it a jagged edge kind of helps to give that organic feel. And just make sure to keep the lines random. The important thing is at this step you want to have a completed, finished silhouette of your land, and then we will fill it in later. Look at a world map and get inspiration for the different shapes that you see there. Start scribbling circles, squares, and triangles on a piece of paper and see what kind of shapes you get. Step 2 is to know your geography. To create a map, you do have to understand a little bit about geography itself. Sure, if you're creating a fantasy map, it can be in a fantasy setting, but you also want to have some sort of roots in reality to make your fantasy world feel real. So once you have your different regions planned out, you can see here I circled each region I wanted with different colors to represent each of the different lands or kingdoms or whatever you're going to call it. Then I decided, based off of the races I was going to have in those regions, what the land was going to look like. So it's important to understand a little bit about geography and how it works. For example, areas around the ocean, you're going to have a lot of beaches and tropical areas. Areas closer to the center of continents, you're more likely to find mountain ranges, and you'll probably find lakes around mountains because water runs down mountains and forms lakes around them. And then also, where do rivers flow? Do they flow from one region to another? Where do they come from? So at this point, you want to start planning out where different types of lands are going to be. What areas are going to be desert? What areas are going to have a lot of forest? Where are the mountains going to be? Are there even mountains in your map? You have to start deciding what and where you're going to have those things now. In this example, after I already had the official outline of my map done, I started to draw out where I wanted specific landmarks to be. Specific mountains, as well as certain areas that were just left to be wide open plain. You have to think of the context of what you're using the map for, and because I am using this map for a fantasy series of novels, I wanted to plan around how the different races would travel from one region to another. Will they have mountains in their way? Do they have to cross over streams? Are there rivers used to travel from one place to another? And are there certain areas that are not able to cross? Are there certain races that can't cross in certain areas because of the landmarks or because of a rivaling country? These are all things you have to start thinking about now before you get to all of the pretty design stuff. So once you have all of your landmarks decided, it's time to actually fill in your map. You can do this by hand or do it digitally. Fill in the areas that have trees, mountains, lakes, and rivers, and flesh everything out officially. You can do this any way you want. You can decide how to draw the lines for your lakes and rivers, in what format you want to do it to clarify which is which. Just make sure that everything is clear and easy to understand, and even look at other fantasy maps for inspiration, maps from, say, J.R.R. Tolkien or Aragon. Look at how other people create their fantasy maps and see what methods they use and work with what you like and what sticks out to you. Step 3 is to name the places. Now you want to have interesting fantasy names for your fantasy map that go with your fantasy world. And how do you create these names, and where do you decide where places go? Of course, in order to name a place, you have to have that place to begin with. And so you can start deciding where you're going to put the capitals of your countries, where you want smaller cities and towns, and say different colonies and clans, and where all of their bases are going to be. A method I have figured out with easily creating fantasy names is starting with the Latin word for something and then switching it up a bit. It's a good way to have a base to start from, so you're not just pulling something out of thin air. You can also start with creating your own languages and then building from there, coming up with dialects that you want to use and creating your words from that. But a very simple, quick, and easy way to create words would be this way, having the Latin word for something and then changing it into something new. So for this example, the Latin word for mountain is montis. And I just changed a couple of the letters, switched it up a little bit, and then you have Mintas. So once you decide all of the names for the places that you have, you can go ahead and write them in on your map. Having names for different mountain ranges and different coves and bays really makes the whole thing feel a little more real. You can add as many or as little cities as you want, but once you do that, your map is complete. So let me know how your map turns out. I would love to see how you guys create your own fantasy worlds. This map right here is actually part of a personal project I've been doing that hasn't actually been mentioned on the internet yet, and I am building my own fantasy world for a series of novels that I'll create one day. So if you guys want me to continue doing videos like this for building fantasy worlds, I would be happy to make more of these videos. I'm thinking about doing a video on how to draw this map specifically, a thorough tutorial on how to actually draw the map. So if you want to know how to actually draw this map specifically so you can apply it to your own fantasy map that you've already created, let me know in the comments down below. And also let me know any other struggles you have with fantasy world building when it comes to character design, and I would love to make some more videos to help you guys. If this video was helpful, don't forget to like it and also subscribe for more videos like this, more tutorials and more helpful videos on helping you learn and grow as an artist. You don't want to miss out on all the fun things we have in the future, so don't forget to join my pirate crew by hitting that subscribe button. Thank you guys so much for watching. I cannot wait to see all of the worlds you create, and I will see you guys in the next video.